Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good.
Good. I was just saying, it's a little hard when there's three of us. So, like, we can all talk at the same time, and sometimes we'll try to take turns. So, we'll see how it goes. For those of you who are joining us for the first time on the Pointing It Out podcast, welcome. We're so glad you're here. I am Melissa McLeod. I'm normally, I would say, here at the Will and the Floss in Detroit, Michigan. At the current moment, I am in Florida helping out with my mother-in-law. So you see her beautiful cabinets behind me. And as a matter of fact, I brought a couple little show and tells. So we're gonna squeak that in there too. I've loved to gift my needlepoint. So there's a couple things in her Florida house that I want to show you guys. So, but I am half of the Pointing It Out podcast team. My other partner in crime, Megan Holmes at the Needlepoint Clubhouse. She and I get together and have done this for about 3 years, which I think is kind of crazy. And we love to get to know needlepoint shop owners, wholesale shop or wholesale owners, designers, teachers, anything needlepoint related, and bring it all to you all. So today I'm really excited. My very good friend Heidi is here, Heidi Henrishs. Why don't you wave, Heidi, so that everyone knows who's Heidi, although I think most people know who Heidi is. She is the owner of Chaparral Dallas, but in this case, more importantly, today and at this moment, she's the owner of NDLPT Designs. And we also have Kay Irby with us, and Kay is her head designer. Is that a fair comment?
Very much so.
I made up your titles, so I hope I did
Oh,
it. So, what I think is always fun is for people to learn how people ended up in our industry. I mean, this is a little me talking, of course. It's a dream to be in this industry. And I think so many stitchers are like, oh my God, I would love to be part of the needlepoint industry. So I think it's always really fun to hear about how you got here. So maybe you guys can take turns. Just give us a little bit about your background, where you live, where you grew up, your education, family, other careers, all those things that kind of led you directly or very indirectly many times to the place we are today.
you want me to start?
Heidi, sure.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Okay. So I was born in Fort Worth, which is in the DFW area. I grew up for the most part in Houston, but went to college at SMU and majored in accounting. So I'm a CPA by trade. Melissa and I have many times talked numbers. We're kind of, nothing excites me more than a good spreadsheet or analysis. And
Sure.
so that comes in handy on the business side of needlepoint. But I started my career actually in Chicago. I was in Big Four accounting and then had several different jobs, kind of lived all over the country. And during the pandemic, was laid off and was in oil and gas, and the oil prices tanked, and found myself without a job and just started stitching up a storm. I'd been stitching since Hurricane Ike, which was in 2008, and started. Someone took me to a stitching class, and I was out of my house, had nowhere to go, and I thought, oh, this is kind of a fun thing to do where I could have eclectic, fun, cultivated things to put in my new house. So it didn't look like everything was purchased at Pottery Barn and there wasn't a single, kind of something that was genuine to me or special to me. And so I just thought I was going to stitch for a year and throw a couple pillows in my house and that would be it. And, here we are almost 20 years later, and I'm very much in the industry. But I purchased the shop 2.5 years ago, and we relocated from Houston to Dallas. I get asked that question all the time as to why I did that. Several reasons. As I said, I was born in Fort Worth, went to school at SMU, which is in Dallas, and my marketing people are here, along with a whole host of friends and other families. So it's been a good move. But in the middle of moving, Kay and I were in the midst of, we can kind of morph into this later after Kay speaks, but we started the very beginnings and the bones and the creativity of NDLPT Designs.
Nice. Well, first of all, I have to mention, I can't believe it's only been 2.5 years that I've known you. I feel like I've known you forever.
I know,
And I
exactly.
did, for those that don't know this, Heidi kind of, and I say this in a very loving way, wormed her way into my world by calling me and saying, I'll do you this favor that you want me to do. She was much more gracious than this because she's, of course, gracious. But basically, she's like, I'll do this favor if you'll be my friend and we can be business friends because I think that you and I think alike and we'd help each other out a lot. And I always tease her because I think she came to me thinking I would be this huge help to her. And I think she's probably in the long run been more help to me than I to her. But no
Don't
one's
believe that.
no one's keeping score. And I also think it's really interesting that it basically two disasters have brought needlepoint into your world. Like, how's that turning lemons into lemonade? You had a hurricane, so you started stitching. You got laid off, and it was COVID, so start a business. Why not? So, yeah, I think that's pretty fun. And how about you, Kay? Give us a little of your background. I've met you, but everybody else has not.
I'm Kay, and I was born and raised in Kingsville.
Is that Texas?
Yes, Kingsville.
Okay, you got to tell the rest of the world.
Down, on the bay, on the Gulf. Okay. Anyway, about 10 years ago, an elderly lady there in Kingsville started teaching me to stitch, and she says, now, the only place you need to go, if you go to Houston, go to Chaparral, blah, blah. So every time we would come up here, I would go to Chaparral. And then it got close, probably about a year and a half ago, I retired. And I started stitching more. But I started noticing the people that were in the industry. And I thought, I want to know these people. And I thought, I ordered a chart off Etsy and I painted it and I thought, well, I can do this, and so I sent it to Heidi, or I introduced myself to her, and it just went from there. She said, I started painting some custom work for other people, and she goes, no, 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 no. She says, let's focus on doing some new stuff. And she's been my inspiration and my friend. And the needlepoint world is just totally different. It's just, I have met so many people and want to meet more, and grow.
What did you retire from?
I worked at the university there in Kingsville, at Texas A&M University, Kingsville, in it was a grant program. I worked there for about 5 years. Before that, my best friend had an embroidery franchise. And I worked for her in outside sales for about 25 years.
Okay.
And
where did you, and I also have to ask, you say this elderly lady taught you how to stitch. I'm going to guess that at this point, she's not that much older than we are.
No, she is. Yes, no, she is. She's and it's very sad because, she's in her mid 80s now. But her eyesight has failed her, and she can't do the stitching that she used to do. And she's one of these that has these gorgeous things, and she has 2 boys, and she's convinced that everything's going to end up in a garage sale. And it's so sad. But anyway, she's a great person. Love her.
Nice. Well, that's fun. So you have stitched for how long, Kay?
Probably 15 years. Never took any classes. I just bought books and kind of
self-taught. I love it.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science, as I tell everyone. Most people know that my shop used to be half knitting and half needlepoint. And I don't know if it's because I grew up needlepointing that I thought knitting was so much harder. But I really think that, it's much easier to become a competent stitcher than it is to become a competent knitter. So
my mother knitted, but I never could get that down.
Like I said, I finally did, but it was the third try for me. The first time I failed, the third time it finally stuck. So different phases of life, and I think that's how needlepoint goes. It ebbs and flows in people's worlds. So you two met because you would pop over. So are you like an hour and a half, 2 hours or so from Houston? Is that right, Kay?
No, I'm about 4 hours south.
4 hours. Okay. So you would pop over from time to time to get your fix, and that's how you and Heidi first met? And when did this whole, I'm going to guess based on your personalities that it was Heidi was pushing the train.
I looked back on my pictures last night, and I think I sent my first canvas idea to her back in February of 2022.
Okay, so not that long.
That
And
sounds
then
right to me too.
yeah, it was one of the bunnies. And from there we just, just rolled
And
along.
so yeah, so Heidi, tell me like from your perspective how this whole thing kind of happened. How was this born?
It was kind of funny because Kay is just a delightful person. So as a customer, we loved her because she came in and she was cheery and happy and always receptive to our ideas and stitch suggestions and what have you. So she's a fun customer to help. And she called one day and one of the girls said, "Hey, Kay Irby's on the phone for you." So I hop on the phone and she said, "Hey, I'm recently retired and just been looking for stuff to do and I can only stitch so much." And started painting. Would you like to see some of the samples? And I'm thinking, oh, that sounds kind of, I'm wondering what this is going to look like. And so I said, sure, send them to me. Let's take a look at them. And I was thinking, oh, I hope these are somewhat good. I didn't have high
Am I going to
expectations.
let her down gently? Is that what you were
Right, exactly. So I mean, I remember the package came and actually it sat on my desk for a couple days. I didn't even open it. How terrible is that? It was like, a million things going on. So finally I opened them. I went, holy cow, she can paint. And I thought, this is great. So I immediately call her up and I said, yeah, send me some. Let's sell them. And so they came and that went on for a couple months. And then she said, "Yeah, I'm doing some ghost painting." So, in ghost painting, or how I term ghost painting, is when you're painting for another designer, maybe like samples for them or what have you. And so, Kay was doing that for some other designers. And I called her up. I said, "Hey, when are you coming to Houston again?" And she said, "Oh, I'm coming in July." And I said, "Great, you want to come over for a drink?" And she said, "Sure." So, I have her at the house. I've got the whole spread out of cocktails and cheese and crackers. And I'm trying to woo her. And I said, "Hey, would you, why don't we do this full time? I mean, not full time, but you exclusively make your own designs because you clearly can do it instead of being a ghost painter. And if you like being a ghost painter, there's nothing wrong with that. And, I'll stop begging you. But, here's kind of my intentions and what I'd like to do."
Did you serve her martinis?
No, with my martinis in the background. No, it was July. Thank you very much. It was July, so we were drinking rosé. So 100-degree weather in Texas. So yes, we were. Didn't we have rosé? I think it was rosé, Kay. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah. So then from there, it was just kind of it took off like a banshee.
Very nice. So I'm trying to think. I met Kay at the first market. I should have thought about this before we started talking. October of 22. Is that when I met?
Yeah, in Frisco, and I met y'all at the restaurant for lunch. Yeah, that was the first time I met you.
So that was your first like kind of walkthrough of a market, right? But
yes,
you didn't have a line. Yes. Your first line debut was in March of 23. Do I have that right?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I remember sitting at that restaurant and you guys showing me like all these designs. I'm like, wait a minute, like this just started like 3 minutes ago. How did this happen? So it was pretty impressive. And I think one of the first things you came up with, I was fortunate enough to be able to host your club, our reindeer club, which we're still sending out the last 3. I'm terrible. I love them. We had a customer who did them all in blue and white instead.
Oh, I love that. Oh,
well, people did use that. That's pretty.
So that was really fun. She picked out her exact color vineyard silk, and and I can't remember if it's terrible at doing it. Because I'm fortunate enough to have Colleen in my back pocket who handles all of our clubs. So I'm not sure if all of them are out the door yet or if we're still on the last segment, but people have loved them. And I think that was one of your kind of hopes and dreams, Heidi, and I'm not sure how this is panning out, is were you not hoping to do stitch guides with most of your canvases?
And so where we have, it takes, obviously it takes time to write a stitch guide and then to get them stitched because it helps when they see a finished picture of it. Sure. And so we have been working on that, and actually, what we're kicking off starting this next market time frame, we'll be telling all of our wholesale customers, is that the stitch guides are actually going to be available online for them to go get them. And if their customer wants it, they can download it. They're all free to the shops, and can do that. What has stitch guides for them? So we're getting caught up. I think like behind me right here, this Jingle Jingle one and this Mary Mary is currently being stitched. They'll be at market. Finished models will be.
So the goal is to have a stitch guide for most things, but obviously Rome wasn't built in a day. So
right, we're getting there.
Well, as prolific as you've been, it's hard to do it all, and you also run a very active retail shop, Heidi, so that takes up a lot of your time too. So your plate is very, very full, in my opinion.
There's a lot going on.
That's exciting. So your first market, I remember walking into your room and being like, wow, she's got a lot for a first market. So do you remember how many designs you had at your first market, Kay? Any idea?
I believe it was 72. Does that sound right? Mm-hmm.
Good for you. Good for you. And I think you guys do and I say you guys, because I know sometimes Heidi's a little bit of the inspiration. Sometimes you're the inspiration. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm saying y'all, but I don't say y'all. You guys have a Western nice way of saying that. You do a really great job of like thematic. You have your different martinis and your different mixers and your different elf feed and your different designer tags and all those things. So I love that, when you come up with an idea, you kind of spread it around, because then there's something for everyone, hopefully. So you start out with about 72 designs, and did you kind of plan, like, I know you have segments to your line, Heidi and Kay, is that something you plan, or is that something that's just kind of evolved?
I'll let you answer that one, Heidi.
Okay. I would say it's a little bit of both. And kind of how Kay and I work, or when we're exploring something, it's not like we sit down and say, let's have a planning session. It's usually just more we're texting each other and what do you think of this idea? But I knew, like, here's for example, I knew that I wanted to do the mixers. And I remember explaining to Kay, I mean, that was at that, having rosé at my house, exploring this whole thing, is I said, I want to do mixers. And I think Kay thought, yeah, whatever, this seems kind of weird, but just
so did I, Kay. But go ahead. We'll talk about that in a minute.
But I wanted to do, so, admittedly, I own 3 KitchenAids, because every time I move and get a new kitchen, I have to get a new KitchenAid to match the kitchen, which I realize is ridiculous. And I like the larger ones that kind of lift up on the handle. And so I was real explicit, like I was sending to Kate, it has to have this bar that goes across and lifts up, and it's, the larger KitchenAid, not the basic KitchenAid. And so Kay was very good at just being like, okay, all right, whatever, if you want to do this. And it's kind of, and how you do like the KitchenAids now, don't you, Kay? The mixers. Yeah. But and so we've got some new ones coming out for market, and some other themed ones, so we're pretty excited about that. But the other thing is when Kay will, we go back and forth, and she will come up with her ideas. And one of her ideas is this baubles right here above me. And so Kay named it the baubles, which I think is a great name. She kept calling it baubles. And I kept going, are you talking about the ones with the circles? And so we had to kind of come up with, what are we naming this? And then I had to remember it. But we've got a couple different iterations of it. At this first market and this next market, we have some different colorways coming out in different shapes. But it was one of those where I'm like, yeah, that's cute. But when she actually painted it on canvas, I'm like, this is super cute. So I think there's some of, okay, just entertain me here and let's try this one. And so, I think we're both good at, letting each other have their own kind of free thinking and trying something out, and just seeing, it's kind of like throwing pasta on the wall and just seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think it's very important, and I've always asked Heidi, has this been done yet? Because you're very familiar with what's out there. I don't want to, do something somebody's already done. That really kind of ruins the whole thing. Everybody wants new ideas. And Heidi has been so good about, we work together on stuff. If I send her an idea and she's like, nah, well, that's fine. We'll go on to something else. Right. Yeah. And I like to do things that make me feel happy. And, that's the way we've been working. And I thought it's been working real well.
Right. Well, and I think one question, one comment. I think, first of all, it's really, really hard to come up with something nobody's done before. I mean, I've been stitching since I was a little girl, and that was just a few years ago. So the needlepoint industry is very small, but we've all been familiar with needlepoint for 50 years at least. Right. Some people that are older than me, longer than me, whatever. So it's really hard to come up with a new idea. So I think that's a huge challenge. So I appreciate that being on the forefront of your mind, but I'm sure there's also times where you come up with something that nobody's ever done before. And then you find out 30 years ago, actually somebody did, but you two were pitching, it's gotta be really, really hard.
I sit in bed at night and I'll send Heidi a picture and she says, already done. Or, and it's not so much that, but like you said, things are going to get repeated, but just put your own taste and your own thoughts into it.
For sure. And the one thing we didn't cover with you earlier, Kay, is you just started painting. Well, if I just started painting, it'd be a disaster. So how is it that your background served you so well?
I don't know. I really don't. I've always been into crafts. I've always liked handmade things, and I'm pretty persistent. If I want to try to learn to do something, I went through quite a few pieces of canvas before I.
Okay.
I was literally, I didn't know where to get canvas. I was ordering 10 by 12 pieces off of eBay so I could paint, to learn how to do this. And the more I messed up, the more I was determined to figure it out.
So you don't have any formal art background?
No.
You just went for it.
Right.
God-given talent.
I have a table in my spare bedroom and I have it all organized and so that's
amazing.
I have a little desk, and that's my studio.
I love it. My daughter, she's in grad school right now for counseling, but she has just a very natural ability with art, and she's taken some art classes in college. She spent a semester in Florence, and she was panicked because she was in these art classes with all these other students who were art majors, and she's like, I'm a psychology major. But she held her own. It was fine. But I keep telling her, I think you could paint some canvases. It can't be that difficult if you've got some natural talent. For me, completely impossible. But yeah.
I enjoy it, and I'll work on the computer and work up charts, and then take a break and paint everything. Try to play catch up. But I think there's a lot of good ideas out there, and the stitching world is just it's changed so much in the last year or so. I see so many young people, and so I try to focus. What is it that they want? What do young people want to stitch? Right. And I have a daughter that's 30, so she voices her opinion to me quite often.
That's nice. That is good. So let's flesh that out a little bit. You have an idea, or Heidi spurs on an idea, because I think from what I've heard, it happens both ways. So it's born in your head, and then what happens? Do you go to your computer? Do you go to my
computer? I figure out, the size, and then I use Win Stitch.
Okay.
It's like Max Stitch, but for Windows. And then I start charting it out, and that's where it evolves. And then I have a chart, and then that's what I send to Heidi in the painted model.
Okay. So then when you send it to, and I think this is the part that Heidi does, and when you send it to the painting service, Heidi, do you send them the chart or do you send them Kay's like master painted one, or both?
So no, we just send them the chart. So, and there's actually, just get into the details here, is we send them actually a PDF of it, and then we send them the actual wind stitch file as well. So they like to get both copies of that, but they 100% paint it from using the file. They don't have to have a painted copy, but we do a painted copy one, so we can take it to market and we can show people what it looks like. And we're not showing, I don't typically like to buy off of just something that's been graphed out. And it's completely different when it looks like, it's painted on canvas. And Kay, I have to do kudos. She is a fabulous painter. And not only is she fabulous, but she's fast. I mean, I can be like, sometimes I'll throw an idea and then 3 days later, I mean, it's like I'm getting the graph copy and I painted it too. She stuff out.
Heidi has sent stuff to the painters and they sent it back, and I'm like, oh, that makes mine look really yucky.
I totally see you guys though. When we do custom pieces, I have a custom painter who lives near us in Detroit, and I will, for a custom piece, she obviously doesn't paint it until the chart has been approved, because what if we spelled K without an E or with an E, it has to be the other way or whatever. And so I'm always having to tell my customers, don't worry, it's going to look so much better painted. And I in some ways you're like, how can it even look that different? Because it's from a pixelated graph to basically a pixelated canvas. I mean, canvas is a little square. So I'm not sure why it looks so different, but it 100% does. So you always paint your charts? Because I'm wondering at some point, like, will our industry get to the point where that first paint, it doesn't even happen? And I think that might be a little bit sad, but maybe that's just me being nostalgic.
Going back to what you asked, what inspired me. I can remember one of the first things Heidi, when I came to visit her in Houston, she had me do a custom piece for a charity, or it was something she had me do. And I thought, wow, I'm going to have to start from scratch and figure this out. I've never done this before. But when I did it and she was pleased, then I thought, okay, I can do this. And that's the inspiration that keeps you moving and keep going forward.
Right. Well, your designs are fabulous. Can
I add one thing to that real quick?
Sure.
It's funny because Kay, and I adore Kay, and I think we have a really good working relationship. And the first time she sent something over, I don't remember what it was. I'm like, oh, I don't think that's going to work. I'm like, how do I tell her this? And I don't want her to crumble and fall apart. And I was like, and I don't know what I said. I'm like, I don't know if that one's going to work exactly. And she said, okay, on to the next one. And so I was so excited, about her response, that she wasn't going to take it personally. And me too, when she's like, Heidi, you're crazy. This is never going to work. And I'm like, okay, let's just move on to the next thing. So there's no hard feelings or, disagreements when I go, I don't think that's going to work. And it doesn't happen often, but it's just nice that, one, we love working with each other, and then two, that we can also be really honest with each other about if I don't think something's going to work, or she thinks something isn't going to work.
Well, and I know. Go ahead. Okay. I just know from being in like my retail store, like I will take, Liz usually comes to market with me, and sometimes she'll pick out things, for instance, the mixers. I'm like, I don't bake. I think owning, what are they, a $350 device is ridiculous for like baking cookies twice a year. And so I'm like, okay, I said to Liz, okay, well, if you like them, it is Heidi and Kay, we'll get one of each. And I think we've sold like 20 of some of them. So it is always really good to have another head in the room that sees things from a different point of view, that can understand, a bigger picture of tastes and likes and excitement. So yeah.
the very beginning, I told Heidi, I said, criticism can be very instrumental in being successful. I mean, if you can't take criticism, then, or not criticism, other people's opinions,
Right.
and use those to channel your talent, So
Well,
yes, it's been very helpful.
And there's lots of different people in the world of needlepoint. And I mean, this is totally an aside, but I felt kind of badly the other day. I posted a canvas on our Instagram page that had a 4-letter word that started with an S. And I actually thought it was really kind of funny. And I had a few people that were really offended, and I felt badly, but other people were like, oh my God, that's hilarious. So I'm not always trying to speak to the same audience. Our audience is broad, the stitching world is broad, and there should be something for everyone. And so there you go.
So true.
So I feel like you guys are still very new, but it doesn't seem like you're new at all, because you've come on, like, just came out of the gates fast and furious. So what have been the challenges of starting out?
Ready to go, Kay? You want me to go?
Yeah.
Well, I think, I told her, I said, we need to go to market with 50 items. And then when we hit 70, we were thrilled. And I'm even more thrilled that we're going with another 70 this coming market. But it has been, now that we've launched the line, and I think people are receptive to it and they're liking it, which, makes us happy, is it's kind of getting more into the business side of it, of having inventory, getting it fulfilled, and more kind of back office type things, which, I have a background in, but it's a little bit different when you're starting completely from scratch and you're taking it on. So there's definitely been challenges in that. Nothing that's insurmountable, but just kind of getting inventory levels ramped up and what have you, so that we, do have enough of everything in stock. And then I think there's the other thing of, kind of being like, what's going to be the one that we hit it out of the ballpark with? And do we order a lot of that, or do we not order a lot of that? And so there's been, we're kind of just figuring that out. And, it's a little bit of crystal ball work, so you don't know exactly, but we're getting better at it.
Yeah, that dart at the dartboard, it's the retailer's conundrum.
Right.
The second I buy 10 of something is like the kiss of death, I think. Okay. So I'm trying to do some math in my head. How many designs are in your line now? Like 140? Is that 140?
Yeah, at market we'll have 140 exactly.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah,
And you can tell
excited.
that you are numbers driven with we have to have 50. Does that ever make you nervous, Kay? Because you're probably more artistic than numbers driven, I'm guessing.
Well, no, it doesn't intimidate me or anything.
Okay.
But I laughed because we were sitting in the room in Atlanta, and she said, kind of projecting. I was on my computer, and I charted out something. I think it was a strap, and I said, "Well, there's one."
Check.
Check. There's one.
Good job. Good job.
But,
yeah. So what has been your bestseller so far? Do we know?
So what's been the bestseller so far are the mixers. I mean, we've got 3 different versions right now. So it's the blue and white check, we have a black and white check, and then I think I held up the finished one right here. And so, and then I think the next one, which kind of goes by several different names, this, Melissa, is, I call it Baby and Manger, and I need to just give that up because I'm the only person on the planet that calls it that. And but everyone calls it Baby Jesus. So.
Well, and I'm gonna I have a note here because this is like my little game when I do a podcast, is I try to predict them. So I have that it was the mixer and now it's the Baby Jesus is what.
It seems to be whichever one we have more in stock of, and then that surpasses the other one.
Well, that's also true, isn't it? And that's, back to having the crystal ball of knowing like which is the one we're gonna put some heavy weight into. And I know, talking to newer designers, a a big challenge is being able to have, like, basically you don't make money for a while because every dollar that rolls in, you turn it back into inventory. So all your inventory is in the retailer's case on the wall, in the wholesaler's case filed in a file cabinet. And but it's a long game, or a medium term game rather than a short term game. So I know that's always challenging. So I like that I found that I guessed that right. Do you have something that's been kind of like what you might say is a sleeper that needs some love, maybe?
What was funny? This is one thing that we learned at market. So this one right above me, and it says "Oh Christmas Tree" on it. We went to market and we did not have, like we said, Kay paints a model of it. And if we've taken it and stitched it, then we didn't have a model of it, and we didn't have it back from the painting service. So it wasn't available for cash and carry at market. And this is the pillow, and this is what was sitting on our pink couch at market. And it was funny because people came in, and I get where they do it is that people get ready to start ordering and they start pointing and telling you what they want. And it's like, they don't think to look down at the stitch model, because we're so programmed to looking at a canvas on the wall or canvas on the table and saying, I want this, this, and this. And so once they came in, we've started selling more. And so, it's that was a live and learn experience, as to what was going on. We've also got Baking Spirits Bright. It's been stitched, it's being made into a tray. I should have it here in a couple of weeks. I have a feeling that once that kind of debuts with our colored acrylic, that people are we have lots of people who I think are interested in it. So
very nice.
That should hopefully be a fun one too.
And so Kay, do you have a personal favorite? Have you stitched any of your own things? Those are two questions. I shouldn't have melded them into one.
I really like the mixers. I do.
You and I have had them as an acquired taste.
I don't really have a favorite. And to be honest with you, no, I have not stitched any of them.
You're going to say Cora. You should tell them the Kate and Cora story.
Kate and Cora. Well, I did two different clutches, and one of them was Kate Spade inspired, and it was just real, very black and pink and red. And, that was Kate, my 4-year-old granddaughter. She's very prim, very proper. Well, then Cora came along. Cora is the 2-year-old, and Cora is child number 2, and she is all over the place, and she's just they're both wonderful. But anyway, the other clutch is called the Cora clutch, and it's all multicolored. It's all different. So anyway, those were kind of fun. But
so is one of those outsold the other?
Cora has.
Cora has. Okay.
Yay for daughter number 2. I'm the second in the family too.
We've made some additions to those. We've made some additions to those. So hopefully they'll do well. Exciting.
And Heidi, do you have a personal favorite, or is your personal favorite whatever one you're stitching at the time?
Yeah. Which one of your children do you love the most? Yeah, I think that would be true. Kind of what's fun right now is we've been planning what we're calling the couch pillows. So we have, we're stitching pillows for the couch, and always want the couch kind of styled for market. And so we've got some big plans for market of this one. And I'm almost done with the first one, and we'll whip out the second one and get that one ready for market. So
I will tell you,
Christmas pillows.
I'll tell you one of my favorites, which doesn't make any sense at all. I absolutely adore the Fiesta Siesta Tequila Repeat. I don't drink tequila. I'm not really a big drinker in general, and I think it's all the colors on the pillow and the graphics.
It makes me happy.
I keep thinking, why I want to stitch that, but then what am I going to do with it? Because it doesn't really make sense in my world. So my daughter kind of likes tequila. I hate to admit it. Maybe I should make it for her. So there we go. I just love it.
Kay lives down, South Texas is so close to the border. So there's a huge, Mexican influence. And when she sent that one, I thought that is just absolutely perfect. I mean, you can tell by Kay's blouse right now. It's kind of, it's like a Mexican dress blouse. And so she's great with all the colors, which I love.
And all the back to maybe appealing to younger stitchers, all the like 20 somethings, they either drink vodka or they drink tequila because apparently it's the lowest in calories. So
Yes.
just passing that along. Oh, so do you have any sneak peeks for us? Anything you want to tell us about what's coming out at market, or is this too soon? I have to let me interject and say this episode is dropping on Saturday, October 7th, but we are filming this a little bit early because we had the time. So it might be too soon for you to want to do that. I don't know.
I've got a couple, and this is going to be a surprise to Kay. So let me back up. So we came up with, I use that term very loosely. I give a little bit of an idea, and of course, most ideas, I'm like, and can we have pink in it? Because I'm a pink girl. And I said, Kay, can we do a Christmas plaid that has some pink in it? So this is kind of a combination. We have this pink plaid and a number of different canvases that are coming out, but we also have some champagne bottles that are coming out, which are Cristal, which if you've ever had Cristal champagne, it's pretty yummy. But this is what the pink plaid, it's pink and red. And then we have the Cristal bottles and a number of our kind of familiar prints and what have you that are going to be available. And Kay may actually be painting an actual Cristal bottle to display at market that may match a canvas. So that's kind of a little bit of a sneak peek. So we'll have some fun things with that to show everybody.
I love it. So cute. Okay. Well, is there anything else we didn't cover, ladies, that we should have? Anything you can think of that I missed?
No, we appreciate you asking us to be on.
Oh, very much so. Thank you so much.
Well, this has been fun, and I hope it gets everyone excited. I'm sure anything that we've talked about, you can, or anything on the wall behind Heidi, you can pre-order at your favorite shop. And Heidi typically does a live from market, like the day market opens, or maybe even as soon as her booth's set up, she does a live from market. So keep your eye on NDLPT Designs. No spaces on Instagram, right?
No spaces on Instagram. That's right. The goal is doing it. We're planning on doing it Thursday night because we're moving into the room on Thursday.
Well, that comes in handy when it's in your backyard, right?
Yeah, it does.
Well, good. That'll be before I even get there. So save some good stuff for me. My shop will
of course.
Okay, gals. Well, if any of you watching is joining us for the first time, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. That helps other stitchers find us and share more of the joy in our little stitchy world. So appreciate you both. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.
Thanks.
Here, bye.